Good evening, guys. Thought I'd talk about what I think makes a good beginner bike. And to start off with, I want to talk about my first bike. It is this guy right over here, a 1973 Honda CB750. Currently under repair at the moment. I've gone through a second engine rebuild on the darn thing, and I just haven't had the time to finish up the job. Maybe soon I'll have that up and going, and we can I'll post a video on that. But that was my first bike, and some people may think, it's like people put a lot of stock in the engine displacement, and some people say, well, don't get anything over a 500 if you're looking for a beginner bike, or you just get yourself a 250 or 300, something like that. They'll throw out these numbers like that, and there's some truth to that, but you got to factor in the year the bike was built and the style of engine it has. If you're talking about the amount of power produced by a bike made in 1970, well, let's not even get into specifics. Year by year, you're going to see an incremental improvement in power in motorcycle engine, in car engines, in any engine, year by year. As long as there's good competition, you're going to see a marginal improvement every year in engine, or almost every year in engine design, in the amount of power that's produced by a given amount of displacement. For me to start off on a 1973 750 inline 4 engine is not as nuts as me starting out on something built this year, 2020, a 750cc engine displacement. That would be a little bit too far. I mean, that would be almost like me starting out on what I'm riding now, which is the Honda ST 1100. And yeah, I love Honda. I just kind of happen to end up with Hondas. I like Honda. I don't dislike Honda. It just happens. It's not that I'm a total Honda boy, but the thing is, the design of the engine makes so much difference in your actual power numbers. I mean, especially if you're looking at like cruisers. Cruisers have those big lopey V-twins in them, and you're not going to get the same amount of power out of that type of engine design as you are going to get out of a parallel twin or a inline 4, or so factor your engine design and look at the actual numbers, like what amount of horsepower you've got, the amount of torque, where in the power band that the torque and horsepower hit. Those are important numbers to familiarize yourself with. And if you're not confident in that, well, then go with a smaller engine. Go with this. But I'm focusing on engine size here. And the other thing you need to factor in is the weight of the motorcycle. Now, I'll say this. When I picked up my ST 1100 earlier this year, I hadn't ridden in a year and a half. I hadn't ridden regularly in 2 years or more. So to get on this bike, 700 pounds wet or so, and then throw my weight on it of, over 200 pounds, you're looking at 1,000 pounds of weight that you're throwing down the road on two wheels. That's something to factor in, is that, you want to have a bike that's light enough that you can actually pick the dang thing up. I mean, especially if you're a beginner, you're going to drop your bike. And chances are, if you're lucky, you're not going to do it at high speed. Most of the time, you're going to drop it when you're doing a slow maneuver, when you're trying to just turn around in your driveway or something. You're trying to, and you don't even have the engine turned on. You're sitting over the bike and you're trying to walk it. You're trying to walk with it. and you turn your wheel a little too far and you tip the darn thing off. Something like that, I guarantee you, is going to happen. So don't get something too big. And don't get something that you're too concerned about keeping pristine condition. I mean, if you've got the money and you scratch it up, I mean, you can, and if it's a low speed thing, you can maybe I can just buff that out, you know. But don't get something that you're going to be so heartbroken if you cause some cosmetic damage to it. Because if you're a beginner, I'm sorry, it's going to happen. You are going to tip it over. You're gonna hop off the bike. You're gonna forget to put down your kickstand or something like that. I'm not gonna say which things have happened to me, but I can guarantee you, I'm not gonna break down the whole list of stupid things that I've done. But you will do stupid things. It doesn't matter how smart you think you are. You will do stupid things with a bike. So just get yourself something that you and this is something I bought both of my bikes used. I don't know if I ever plan on buying a new bike. I mean, obviously there's a financial concern there of, do I have the cash? Is that something I want to spend the cash on if I had the cash? I definitely would not finance a bike because you don't finance toys. Yeah, that's just bad it's a bad financial idea. And let's be honest, let's consider bikes are toys. Yeah, there's a practical aspect to them. You can move down the road. You can drive yourself back and forth to work and do it fuel efficiently. Oh yes, believe me, I have told myself that one multiple times. But let's be honest, bikes are toys. I mean, they bring us joy. They're there to make our lives happier and better. But yeah, going back to cosmetically, think about a used bike. If you're thinking, well, I'm only going to be happy, if you want to buy a 250, well, buy a used Ninja. I mean, now I'll say this. This is the other thing to consider is ergonomics. And I'll get to that in a second. But buying a used Ninja, you get that for $1,000 or $2,000. Off of Craigslist or Facebook or wherever you're looking. And that's a bike that if they say it's never been dropped, they're lying. Because that's a beginner bike. That's something that no one has spent the time on. It's if you drop it, it's not going to hurt anything. It's already been dropped. You can, I won't say it's not going to hurt anything because you can cause damage, but you're not going to hurt your feelings. You're not going to feel bad about having done something to it. If you ride a bike off the showroom floor and it's in pristine condition and you accidentally bump into something, how are you going to feel about that? So, that's the thing I'd caution you about on that. And the other thing, to get back to it, riding style. How do you feel most comfortable? Now, I think most smaller bikes do give you a more standard riding position. As you start to move up in engine size, you do tend to see, like especially the 650s, you'll either see a standard type upright riding position. It's how you sit in the saddle. So you'll either be sitting upright, you'll be sitting hunched over like this, leaning over into the over the tank. Is your natural position, or you're completely upright with your feet up in front of you. There we go. Trying to get framed right. With your feet up in front of you, like with forward controls, like you have on a cruiser. Whatever style you feel, and go to a dealership, sit on a few different bikes, see how you feel comfortable. If you're not comfortable sitting still, you're certainly not going to be comfortable in motion. And you're certainly not going to be comfortable if you're spending hours trying to learn how to ride the bike. So, that's just a few things, engine size, ergonomics, overall weight. Those are all key factors to consider. And if you don't know, go to a dealership. If you find a good, reputable dealership, they will help you, and they will help you find something that's right for you, wherever you are. If you're a beginner, or if you're a semi-experienced rider, or if you haven't ridden in a while and you want to get back into it, go out there, ask questions, and you'll be set. Just don't buy more than you need, though. Don't go overboard. All right. Thanks.